Hey there, you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Here's your host, RJ Carbone.
Soto, a high fly ball to center. Thomas backing up. Thomas at the track. And one, Soto! DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Knicks take a
Take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! Mr. Noble.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down and the game is tied.
Rose, you shook up the world again.
I did it again. My God did it, man. I really just had
Gonna have to. Brunson running away. Oh my! He has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. That was that one felt good. That one felt good. That's a win. That's a win. That's going to get me a little bit excited again. I mentioned it at the end of last episode. I said if they go out there and they defeat the Magic, not beat them to a pulp like they did. If they just defeat the Magic, then I'll be impressed a little bit and I'll start looking at them in a more positive light. And they went out there, the Knicks, and they beat the pulp out of them. This was the best win of the year. Maybe Denver more impressive, but this is honestly like the Knicks seem to have Denver's hand, if that's a term. They seem to like that seems like to be a good matchup for the Knicks. This Magic team has not been a good matchup for them. They've beaten them entering last night. The Knicks had lost, they lost 3 out of 4 to them last year, and I think they lost 6 out of 9 overall. Like, it was a team that gave the Knicks a lot of issues in the past. And this is a team who's, ahead of the Knicks in the Eastern Conference. They came into this game on fire. I think they had won 5 in a row. No Paolo Banchero. It didn't matter. They got hot. And this is a tough, switchable defense, which we will talk about. And the Knicks went out there and they beat them again to a pulp. To clinch Group A in the NBA Cup and advance into the next round to play Atlanta next. But overall on the season, the Knicks moved to 13-8. That's a .620 win percentage. They've won now 9 of 11, 8 of 9, and 3 in a row. All right, and this game didn't start wonderfully. The way it started, you were thinking, oh, great. Is this another lackluster performance against the, top team, good team at least? Because the Knicks, I actually missed the first couple of seconds of this game because the Gotham Sports app is garbage and unreliable. But I came upstairs, I turned the TV on, and it's 6-0 Orlando. And then not long after that, it's 9-2 Magic. And from there, it was all Knicks. It was all Knicks. They go on this 13-0 run, and they never really look back. As a matter of fact, from that point, from when the Knicks went down 9-2, you go and you take them from that point to the very end of the third quarter, they were plus 38 in the game. They outscored Orlando 104-66 from the 2-minute mark into the game, 2 minutes and change into the game until the fourth quarter. The Knicks were a plus 38 in this game. So when the game really mattered, right? It was a phenomenal performance. The energy in the building last night, Madison Square Garden, I wasn't there, but from what it sounded like on TV, on the MSG telecast, because we don't watch TNT here in this household, it seemed like the energy was fantastic. You had the Deuce chants going on. Campaign is out there embracing the Garden. Love that guy. Towns, too. Towns is going back and forth with Mo Wagner. There was a play where that one shot he made where he was taking Wagner on the post. He's getting hit a ton because he never gets calls, and he's just getting tons of contact. And he looks at the official in the middle of the possession, and then quickly just turns it into a fader, knocks it down, no problem. Very cool moment that's going to be turned into a meme and stuff. But he has the double tech on a clap off. They get double techs, but it was cool, man. Towns has that energy. Josh Hart was energizing the crowd. I mean, it just felt fantastic. And this Knick defense, I think, is my biggest takeaway from this game. Maybe not. Maybe it was some of the offensive stuff, which we'll get into. But the Knicks. They played some legitimate NBA defense last night. The final score in this game, by the way, was 121-106. The Knicks win. But the defense last night, I know Orlando isn't an amazing offense. I know they're known for their defense, but they've got some legitimate NBA bucket getters on their squad. And last night, the Knicks held them to 106 points, and that was just a 105 offensive rating. And again, it just looked like the Knicks were alive and energetic from the get-go defensively. They were playing this game like the NBA Cup matters to them. So, I don't take it too serious, but these guys want to win. Tibbs wants to win. Josh Hart wants the money. He's made that known. These guys want it. And I thought the defense was where this started. I think the rotations the Knicks were making on that end were on point again. I thought they made very hard, aggressive closeouts to shooters. And overall, their pick-and-roll defense was on point. You noticed early that Tibbs put Towns back into a drop because just of the matchup. Orlando's not a great outside shooting team, and you look at a guy like Franz Wagner, this guy is a lethal pick-and-roll weapon once he comes off. So it was probably best to put Towns in a drop. And Towns, man, excellent defensively last night. Excellent. He was much more aggressive. He had active hands out there, which is one of the things that we kind of criticize him for. But he was active. He was forcing the Magic offense to really work hard. He was moving pretty well. He had a couple of blocks last night. One came at the very top of the second quarter. You get a Cole Anthony, Mo Wagner empty side pick and roll. Towns does a nice job sliding his feet well and rotates onto Mo Wagner at the basket, blocks his shot. And then a few minutes later, I think Orlando runs, I think it was a Miami action. Whatever, I forget the set. It's when you DHO into pick and roll. Whatever it was with the Wagner brothers. And he ends up blocking Franz off the pick and roll this time. So he continues to look better defensively. Too many times this year when you're putting Towns into action, he's not providing enough pressure, right? There's just zero rim resistance, and the offense ends up getting whatever the hell they want. Not last night. That wasn't the case. There were even a couple of times last night where Towns found himself switched onto Franz Wagner on the perimeter, and he held his own. Tibbs didn't panic, and he let Towns handle it. And I thought he looked good. So that's one of the reasons why I want to see the Knicks switch at least 2 to 5 more, because you have wingspan there, But it wasn't just Towns playing good defense last night. Wingstop flashed their brilliance, right? The wings looked very good defensively. Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby. Nice to see him return offensively too. All playing excellent defense. Playing, just defending on a string, right? Rotating and switching with ease. There was one defensive stand. It came at the very top of the second half. The Knick wing trio just doing a really nice job of staying attached on a series of Orlando screens. Off ball on the weak side, there was a lot of screening going on, but they were doing a really nice job not getting hooked. But Mikal eventually gets beat by Suggs on his closeout, but then Josh Hart makes a quick stunt at Franz to stop Suggs, or off of Franz to stop Suggs. Suggs kind of hop steps away to get by Hart, but Anunoby's right there down low, and he pokes it loose. It was either him or Hart who ends up poking it loose. Just the three wings right there showing you why this defense maybe can have something in time. How long is that going to take? I don't know. But they're getting closer. You know, they seem like they're getting closer. You're getting better defensive production from Towns and Mikal Bridges lately. And you look at their last 5 games or so, it's been better. They were solid against Denver. I know they let up at the end there in the minutes that didn't really matter. Dallas, they kind of slipped up a bit. They were good against Charlotte. They were good against the Pelicans. And they were good against Orlando last night. So 4 of the last 5 games, they've really shown something defensively. So that has them in their last 5 games overall, 10th in defensive rating. They're still 21st overall. They have a 114.1 defensive rating. Is that correct? No. I don't know what I put there on my notes. That can't be right, because that's... Is that right? Oh, they got it down to 114.1. So the goal is to get it to league average, right? And right now, league average is Philadelphia. They're 15th in defense at 112.9. So that's, if this number at 114.1 is correct, that means the Knicks are 1.2 points per 100 possessions off from being league average. So that can be addressed, or that can be done in a few games. That's the goal. With this offense being as incredible as it is, you need this defense to at least be NBA level. And this offense, you know, the one thing we've been asking for, all of us Knicks fans, it was kind of the last flaw or question or just something you wanted to see them overcome a little bit. They got it done last night. And we're going to talk about what I mean when we return from our first break here in the podcast in episode 754 of BD4. So we'll be right back. Stay with us. Back in just a sec. BD4 is available on social media for those who want to follow. You can find BD4 on Instagram at BD4Pod. You can find us on X at BD4Pod. And you can find us on Facebook by simply searching BD4. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, this podcast is also available in video format on YouTube. So be sure to go over to the YouTube channel, BD4, subscribe, like the videos, comment, and tell me how much I suck or maybe how much you like the video. We'd very much appreciate it. All right, welcome back to the show. Episode 754 of BD4. The Knicks waxed the Magic to move on. This offense last night, very productive. 121 points, which gave them a 119 offensive rating. They shot 51% from the field, 43% from 3, and 100% on, I think it was 20 free throw attempts, maybe a little more. They had 30 assists, giving them a 70% assist rate. I mean, just absurd offensive production and efficiency. Absurd shooting. That's what this team does. They will shoot the rock. And they probably would have scored a lot more than that. They probably would have dropped 145 again if the game wasn't over by, the middle of the third quarter. You had 5 different Knicks with 18 points or more, and Brunson had a nice game. He only had 21 points. He doesn't have to go off anymore. His usage rate is down 4% from last season. He's got guys who can help him out. And I thought last night the Knicks did what we've all been waiting for this season. It was kind of the last step. They produced offense versus an elite switching defense. You know, Orlando wasn't switching everything last night, and I think part of that was because they didn't have Paolo, but also what's his name, Bitadze. But they were still very aggressive in coverage. You know, they doubled the pick and roll, and they switched a pretty good amount. And the Knicks were able to exploit that by something we've discussed heavily, diversifying their offense. Right, we saw a lot of different things from this offense in the half court. Empty side pick and rolls with Brunson and Towns early, just applying pressure on the defense and generating very easy looks off it. You know, we saw some horn and some pistol sets. We saw a lot of offense from the Chin series, from the away series, with just cutting and screening and facilitating. That's the way to do it, right? The first basket of the night, Mikal Bridges knocks down a pull-up jumper off of Gut Chicago from a Chin set. You know, you saw a lot of, or a couple times where the Knicks would slip the screen into space. And this is something we've also been hitting on, how the effectiveness when you slip against aggressive coverages confuses the defense. And late in the first quarter, Jericho Sims was in. He slips into space off the high pick and roll with Brunson. Brunson hits Jericho in the pocket, and Jericho, out of the short roll, finds Deuce McBride on the wing for a three that ends up being a 4-point play. So they were just very smart with their offense, very resourceful and efficient when they got the switch. You know, and this is how it will work, right? The Knicks, listen, this Knicks team is last in pace. This is how they're going to be under Tibbs. This is how they're going to be for as long as Brunson is their point guard of this team. That's how this works. They are slow. They're methodical. They're never going to move super quickly. They like to get into their sets, and they like to work the defense, right? So they're going to run a ton of delay offense. They're going to run some elbow offense, and they're going to let Cat do his thing as a passing hub. You know, they're going to mix in some matchup hunting, and that's kind of been the struggle so far against these specific coverages, is finding a balance of when we want to make quicker decisions in the half court and when we want to go after certain matchups and get the switch. That's been the struggle, right? So it's all about being opportunistic with their advantage creation. And I think the Knicks last night did a very good job of that, right? There was another possession I liked later in the first quarter. Mikal comes off a Towns weak side screen to switch Suggs off of him, and he ends up pulling in I think it was Isaac's face on the elbow. The Knicks did some damage on Jonathan Isaac last night, who's considered the best wing defender in the game. The next basket after that, you know, Orlando miscommunicates off of a couple of Knicks screens up top. I think they were maybe trying to ice the pick and roll. Whatever it was, Campaign comes off it, knocks down a three, and Isaac's face coming off another ball switch. So, you know, it's how they're making defenses work this year with the cutting. We've mentioned in previous episodes the Knicks' cut frequency is up. They were bottom third last year. They're close to the top 10 this year. You know, the first basket of the second half, Brunson gets an early Carter Jr. switch. He pulls up for a three on him. A few minutes later, Mikal Bridges sets a guard screen for Brunson to get the Caldwell Pope switch. Brunson finishes through contact with the finger roll. Middle of the third quarter, you have Mikal Hart run DHO. That gets the Caldwell Pope switch this time for Mikal. And he knocks down a three with some space because Caldwell Pope was initially playing off of Josh Hart before they hand off and switch. So cutting, mismatch hunting, just finding that balance is what it's all going to be about. And that's what I love most about what I saw last night offensively. And, you know, speaking of Mikal Bridges, hey, man, he wasn't the best player on the floor last night, but he was one of them. 19, 5, and 2 last night for Mikal. And he's, again, we've done this before, so I don't want to jump the gun, but he looks better lately. His last 2 games, he's totaled 50 points on 20 of 32 shooting. That's 63%. And he shot 9 for 18 from 3. Obviously 50%. So that's good. The numbers are good. What I love is that the Knicks are playing winning minutes with him on the floor again. Right? They're outscoring opponents by 73 points in those 70 minutes with Mikal on the floor the last 2 nights. That was not a trend for most of this season. That's been the one thing that people are hammering. The Knicks consistently playing losing minutes with Bridges on the floor. You know, and part of it's the offense coming around. Right? I think he's been remaining active off the ball. And that's going to be the key to him staying involved offensively because, listen, to be cutthroat, Brunson and Towns are going to dominate the touches. That's still going to be how the offense runs. Your 2 best are going to be on the ball a lot. So Mikal's going to have to find a way to be active when he's off the ball. Catch and shoot. That's been there. The movement threes. That's a good sign. He's scoring off cuts. That's all good. But I think the most important part of Mikal's game, and we wrote this in our latest article, go check that out on BD4blog.com, is that the defense is getting better. You know, it looks good lately. And that's a big reason why this plus minus with him has been better of late. He's not struggling as much at the point of attack. He's much more aggressive. He's being felt on the defensive end. And that's been one thing he's not been for most of this season. So to see Mikal Bridges staying attached, fighting over the top, and not dying on every single ball screen, it's a good sign. But he wasn't the best wing last night. I thought the best wing, and maybe the best player on the floor last night, was Josh Hart. Let's talk about Josh Hart. Josh Hart last night, as you can see on the screen if you're watching the video format of the podcast, 11 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals. He shot 4 for 6, was 3-3 at the line. He was a plus 18 in the box score, and he finished playing 39 minutes in this game. Second game ball of the season for Hart. Just remains probably their most consistently efficient player all year. You know, his transition play has been unreal. His efficiency is insane. You know, he uses the window better than most guys do. He's so crafty off the glass. He's very good at angling the ball to get the right bounce off of the glass. You know, he's got excellent burst of speed to get by defenders. You know, he drives closeouts very effectively and with confidence. That's a key because he's not the greatest shooter, although he's knocked him down so far. He's not the greatest shooter, so they need him to attack the gaps with quickness. And he's been doing that very effectively this year. And you look up, man, and I know we just, you know, after the Denver game, kind of made our case for OG Anunoby becoming an all-star. Josh Hart's not going to make it, and maybe he shouldn't make it, but, like, he's putting up peak Draymond Green type production numbers. For the Knicks so far this year, Josh Hart's averaging 14 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. And that's on 59% shooting from the floor, 72% from 2, 38% from 3, 86% from the foul line, a 66% effective field goal percentage, and a 68% true shooting percentage. Those are elite numbers. That's everything you want. That's him being a glue guy. That's him being that jack of all trades. Been really effective. Really, really solid job from Josh Hart. And he's been a monster in these NBA Cup games. And, you know, that's backed it up. All the talk that he wants to win money, he wants the watches. He's made some really cool comments on it. But, yeah, he's been on fire. He's been on fire. This is his best stretch as a Knick for sure. So Josh Hart gets his second bing bong game ball last night. And going to the bench, Deuce McBride. He was excellent. 18 points, 4 assists, 1 steal. He shot 5 for 7 from 3. And that was across 26 minutes. Gets his 12th game ball to lead the Knicks. He's the team leader in game balls over Brunson by 3. leading the second unit by 8 more than second in Jericho Sims. You know, he's been awesome coming off the bench. I know a lot of people wanted him to start coming into the season. I think this is the best role for him. You know, him and Campaign have an excellent synergy when they come off the bench together. They play very well off of each other offensively, but they're both very pesky defenders. They smother the pick and roll guard. And they just give this bench a ton of life. You know, the Garden loves Deuce McBride. I was listening to a podcast earlier, KFS, and John was saying a really good point, how he's getting to that Emmanuel Quickly territory. You know, where he's starting to consistently produce like this. And the Garden's falling in love with them. And he's just been so key on both ends. It feels very much like it did with Emmanuel Quickly. You know, and Deuce McBride's season numbers here, if I can pull them up, here they are. Let's go back to that real quick. 11 points per game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 turnover, shooting 46%, 43%, and 89%. Look at that efficiency. That's the definition of this Knick offense, efficiency. So good for Deuce McBride, good for the Knicks, and I think that's all we have for this part of the show. So what we're going to do is head to our final. Well, we have a couple more breaks we're going to get into, but we're going to head to break real briefly, and then we get back. We will talk about what's coming up on this schedule. Stay with us here on episode 754 of BD4. We'll be right back. Don't have time to sit down and watch a video? You can listen to BD4 on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And you can also watch the video format on Spotify too. If you feel like supporting the podcast, you can Venmo at Robert-Carbone-JR-28. We really appreciate your support. Welcome back to the show. Episode 754 of the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4. Up next for your New York Knickerbockers, they've got 2 more must-win games at Madison Square Garden. Games that they should win, right? You're playing Charlotte tomorrow night, and then you've got Detroit coming into town Saturday night. So those are 2 games that I know Detroit's been better this year. You really should win. Make this a 5-game win trip. And then you have a quick trip to Toronto on Monday. I know RJ is playing very well over there, but Toronto's still a very bad team. And then you got a new game on the schedule with the next Cup game coming up Wednesday at 7 p.m. The Knicks will face Atlanta in the quarterfinal game. That's at the Garden, but if the Knicks can win this game, they will advance to the semifinals in Vegas. So if they get to the semifinal in Vegas, that's gonna be interesting. You know, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about. I'm not like I've tried to get into this NBA Cup thing. I like the idea. You know, it adds flair to the regular season. It's hard to look back at it now and think of a season without the Cup. To be honest, it's still difficult getting like a playoff type. I can't. I don't get that type of feel. You know, it's more fun than it is to me. It's more fun than it is, you know, intense, if that makes sense, as a fan. But yeah, they've got the Hawks on Wednesday. And remember, after the Knicks lost against Dallas, we brought up the remaining schedule of 2024, and it was very weak. And I said, I really want to see the Knicks go 10-3 to close out the year. Obviously, you got now additional Cup games, but they're 3-0 so far. So I want to see them continue to win to close out the year. And they got Charlotte tomorrow. So you got a good chance to make this 4 wins in a row. We'll see what happens. We're going to wrap this up. When we return from our final break, we'll get right into our trivia, and then that will be that. Stay with us here on episode 754 of the podcast. Do you enjoy Yankees baseball but are tired of hearing me yap? I have a suggestion for you. Go check out Yankee Crazy Podcast. Greg Gill is a Yankees podcaster on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and he's now selling merch. Go to yankeecrazy.myshopify.com. Stay connected with us. Visit BD4blog.com to explore our blog, tune in to our latest podcasts, and follow us on social media. Thank you for being a part of this community. Welcome back to the show. The Knicks win last night, 121-106. They waxed the Magic to move on. 121-106 at the Garden over the Magic in the final game of Group A in the NBA Cup. So now they advance to the quarterfinal. But folks, we're going to wrap this episode up right now with our trivia question of the day. Let's get to our trivia. All right, so for this episode 754, our trivia question. Who are the 3 Knicks to win 6th Man of the Year, and in what years? All right. Who are the 3 Knicks to win 6th Man of the Year, and in what years? So let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. If you get the answer correct, I will give you a shout out in the next episode in front of all 2 of our listeners. And that is that. So I appreciate every one of you for checking out this episode. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. Next up, the Knicks have the Charlotte Hornets coming to the Garden. So the Knicks just defeated them a couple games ago in Charlotte, the day after Thanksgiving that was. Lackluster game. Hopefully the Knicks have the more energy this time. And that's it. Appreciate you all tuning in. I will see you all in the next episode of BD4. Later. Well, if you made it this far, that means you listened to or watched the entire episode. Thank you. Just remember to follow, subscribe, download, rate and review, and all that fun stuff to help out the podcast. And I will see you in the next episode of BD4.